Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome to Culture Talk Live, powered by the Heat Seekers. We got a good show today. I ain't even gonna lie. And we got special guest co-host, Miss Dee Dee Parker. I'm so proud of you to be here too, so we can talk to Mr. Arthur Morton, Pierre G. Porter. He got so many names, and he's 49, so fine.
Pierre is fine. Pierre is fine.
So wait, I want to just say this. Culture Talk Live is a show we get to talk about things in the culture that we probably don't get to see every day, and things that we talk about. So it's a pleasure having you here with us today, and none other than Miss Dee Dee Parker and Red Dread ATL himself.
In the building.
Yes, sir. This is a good show today.
Yeah. What's up, Dee Dee? Shout out to Miss Dee Dee Parker from the Chubb Rock Man Baby Morning Show on with us today. Yay. And of course, the great Kevin Bryant.
Yes, sir. I'm actually down.
Huh? You out of town?
Yeah, I'm up in Reading, Pennsylvania right now.
Nice. You stay traveling.
Not very far, man. You can shoot on down the city. We hang out.
Oh, that's cool. Yo, you can.
I'm in Philly.
Oh, you in Philly? Oh, you got to teach me some things in this book, because I live a boring life. No, but go ahead and introduce me, man.
Hey, definitely. Big shouts out to our special guest today, Kev. And also shout out to Double Exposure. Shout out to Angelo Ellaby. Shout out to Kevin Goins, the whole crew out there. And of course, we got the great writer, author, producer with us today, Mr. Arthur Morton, aka Pierre G. Porter.
Thank you.
Yay. So let's just get right into it. Okay. Nowadays, I know this is a pretty popular subject, y'all. He got a book, and it's about sex working. I think that's what I call it. But I don't know if that's what everybody else calls it. Nowadays, they call what his book was about. They call it sex work.
Sex work.
They've made a name now for a lot of things that's in this book. So, and I know when you were doing that, was it work for you, or was it? You tell us what it was like.
Right, because I was getting ready to ask that. So, what is he trying to say? Is it work? Because sex is not supposed to be work, honey. It's supposed to be pleasurable.
Well, he's saying the young culture is calling it work. I'm calling it love and loving and romance.
Oh wow, that's love and romance. Apparently it wasn't like you was doing it and then you get a paycheck or a fee. You was changing women's lives, right?
Well, in the book, and it obviously is a work of fiction, but in the story, yes, there's women. The women are being changed, as well as the protagonist, Harold Longston. He's being changed by the interaction with these women, these individuals. And they're mature, strong sisters. I mean, one's a nurse, another one's got a master's on the way to a doctorate degree. All of them are successful women, but like all of us, we're imperfect people in an imperfect world. And so we try to find some of that search for perfection or oneness, and hopefully that's found in the union of two people becoming one.
Do you think it's a good thing to talk about this type of subject so that we can all become more familiar with different types of love making and different types of scenarios that we get put in involving sex? How do you think?
Yes, actually, the sex in this book is pretty much straight up sex. It's not wild, crazy kind of sex in the book.
I was going to say it's not 50 Shades of Grey.
It's not 50 Shades of Grey because, one of my impetus to writing this book, I was talking with some folks, the subject, what would a brother say would be an alternative conversation or story to 50 Shades of Grey? Not tying a sister up, So, it's about love and loving. and being responsible, maturing, and having mature relationships. As it said in the book, there's a muse in the book, and she doesn't come around when and talking to the individual or Harold, the protagonist, if in fact he's essentially doing immature things. Actually, it wasn't the muse; it was what he's called multiple love angels, the molas. And the molas are these women that kind of help brothers, in their relationships with perhaps one or more women.
Well, the thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I know we have Miss Didi up here who's representing a lot of the women out there.
Oh, sure.
There was a part in the book. The females in the book didn't seem to be as some of them weren't as submissive. A lot of them were pretty aggressive. So, Didi, for you, like, how do you feel about women in that role of aggression when it comes to a man and being very sexual? Like, I want to know how that interaction is with you guys.
You mean as far as the woman being aggressive and taking the lead during sex?
Yeah.
Well, some of my past experiences, some men like that. Some of the men like when you actually take the lead, and they're not always the ones that have to do all of the work. And it, I guess, gives them a sense of like, oh, she's attracted to me. She wants me,
Wow. See, and that's a lot of things that I saw. I think I forgot one woman's name that I scanned through. She was very like, heads on about what she wanted in that book. But I want him to talk about that. Some of the experiences with some of the women. Some were very, submissive, and some were sort of aggressive at the same time. So what made you write those type of characters or show all those different types of women?
Well, there's several women in the book. The first one that we're introduced to is Yvette, and these are ladies in their late 30s, early 40s, moving on. They've had relationships, they've had children, even marriage, and but in all of that, and in all that maturing on, there was something they found they were missing. For example, Harold talks about Yvette being a great mother, her right brain firing, triggering, doing all those responsible things as an individual mother or parent. But her left brain, in terms of love and romance and understanding love and romance, she was like a young person in their 20s. But Harold, having a relationship or having a fondness for her, says, "Hey, listen, I will not do anything that you don't want to do, and hopefully we'll do some things together. But most of all, we'll find each other, the passion for each other, and that potentially that love beyond passion, because that's where true growth and maturity comes in."
But was there anything in there that really struck love and attachment, or was it all just like, okay, I'm on a mission? You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I think the women actually fall in love, and Harold's a brother that falls in love easily. He likes love and romance, so he falls in love very easily. And at the end of the day, at the beginning of the book, he comes into a club that he hasn't been in for a while, and he sees this one, and he's thinking about starting a relationship again. And he's out perhaps looking for one, and he eyes this one female named Yvette, and he says, well, maybe she might be the one. She seems to fit my MO, so to speak. So he figures out how to approach her, and eventually he does. And at the same time, there's another woman in the club named Lynn that he met at the club a couple years ago, but never followed up. But this time he says, I'm going to follow up with this sister and see where it goes. So both mature women, both seeking something in their life beyond success, beyond children, beyond exes. They're finding something. They're on the hunt for something. And so is Harold, and perhaps that is that thing beyond passion. I think it's love, maturity, humility, forgiveness.
A little bit of love and lust.
Well, there is a thing of love and lust, and there's, perhaps there's a fine line between it, and it's perhaps one can have their cake and ice cream, but if you're talking about a whole cake and a whole gallon of ice cream, perhaps you can't have that. But if you're like, okay, I can have a quarter of a cake of ice cream and a half a pint of a quarter of a cake and a half a pint of ice cream and another quarter of this, and you get a whole. But it's really that understanding of forgiveness, humility, compassion, sharing, because otherwise you don't get there. You stay in your egotistical mindset and you're like, all right, well, you don't want to do this for me to, heck with you.
I got a question.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I got a question for both of you guys. Like, and Didi, I know you're hosting, but I still want to know from your perspective, how important do you think it is, or how critical do you think it is? Do you think a man should approach women based on their attractiveness, or should a man respect the woman to the point and not kind of let them know how they're attractive? I guess I'm saying it like this, Didi. You know how you be walking in the room and guys, woo, look at that, and blah, 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 blah. How do you think a man should approach a woman when they're attracted? And I want you to like kind of direct that toward Mr. Morton, because I want to see the interaction.
Ooh, so how should a man approach you if they're attracted to you? I think, like you said, respectfully. If you see somebody out and you see me out and you like, hey, she looks attractive, she looks like somebody I'm interested in getting to know. A simple hello, how you doing goes a long way. You don't got to be extra with it.
I agree.
Thank you.
Agree. In fact, in the first couple of pages of the book,
that's why I said that.
Harold was attracted to Lynn, and she's, he sees her there, and her, as he describes her, this cream caramel looking, latte looking kind of sister, very tall, almost his height. She's got stilettos on, and she's got a blue dress clinging to a perfectly formed body. And he says to himself, nice legs. But to her, he says, hello, how are you? So I agree with you, Dee.
Yeah. Sometimes
the mind says one thing.
Right. But you keep it in your mind. You don't say it out loud.
That's right. But verbally, you just say, hey, how are you today?
Right. And then we could get to that level where you be like, when I first met you, the first thing I saw was your legs. I thought they were amazing. So
that's a conversation down the street, right?
Down the line, later on down the line.
That's right.
That's interesting. So when you do meet a woman or a man for that matter, like what is the first thing you see that you're really attracted to, but then you kind of don't say? Like I know, Didi, you get a lot of that, just from knowing you. What do you get?
As far as like what pickup lines?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
I'm going to be respectful. I mean, the best way to do it is just be respectful.
Yeah.
If it comes off corny, so be it. It's like, and you're attractive. Believe it or not, I believe men are attracted to women beyond their physical, because individual emote certain characteristics about themselves. And because I've seen some very attractive women are very unattractive. Because of just their mannerism, whatever about them.
Right, their personalities.
And all of that. And so, as they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And it could be the way she holds a glass, that attracts you to a woman that you see from afar. It could be the way she stands. It could be her conversation with another person that just excites something within you, the watcher. And you want to say, no, to get to know her.
Truth be told, if you can make me laugh, I'd be like, okay, he's cool. If you can get me to laugh the first time we meet, I'd be like, okay, he's cool.
That's true.
That's all it takes, Didi.
That's
okay,
true.
Great. Yeah, that's true too. But
I gotta tell you, I've got quite a few brothers and sisters, right? So I was a young man, and I'm talking to my older brother, and he says, man, you like girls? I said, of course. He says, well, it's very easy to get them. I said, really? He says, yeah. What do you mean? Tell me, what's the secret? He says, all you got to do is learn to make them laugh.
And I'm the type of person, because I'm a goofy person myself. So if you can get me to laugh, like your line is something that makes me laugh, I'd be like, okay, you're cool. You're
Hey,
very
listen, it has worked for many years. I mean,
yeah.
hey, make them laugh.
I think that's definitely one of the number one icebreakers.
Yeah, get somebody to laugh.
Is laughter.
That's
But I
true.
do understand now that guys can be a little intimidated to approach women now, just because of past interactions with women turning them down, and I guess maybe some of the stuff that they say, like, don't talk to me, why are you talking to me, like, get out my face.
Well, I mean, there is that. And the essence of it is you have to learn. I mean, maturing is growing beyond the simple things and finding what is meaningful, that, finding that oneness, that relationship, having a certain consciousness that allows you to not be angry with the world, or with individuals, and move towards finding that which makes things work between two people or a group of people. You gotta, what's the big picture here? Is it a relationship? Is it just straight business? Whatever it is, let's move towards the success point, as opposed to, arguing in the gray.
Because I'm not gonna lie, like, I have seen guys that I have been attracted to, but might be like, okay, I don't want to approach them because I guess I'm scared or shy or nervous. And then I'm like, I don't know. What does a girl say to a guy to pick them up?
Are you asking the question?
Yeah, what does a girl say to a guy to
and
pick
again,
them up?
I think the same thing. Hello, how you doing?
Okay.
You could even say, hey, let me buy you a drink. But I think the simple works for me. To try and think of a creative line, and and it goes flat, I would just say, let's just stick with the simple. You look nice, or I noticed you. I noticed you doing whatever. Is that your thing, or it's something simple, but yo, babe, don't get it, or what's up with you? For some, it may, and because she may respond, well, what's up with you?
Right.
With that being said, though, Mr. Morton, like, what do you think the generation now, how do you think it compares to, previous? Like, because I hear a lot of things now, and where I hear guys talk to women, even when women talk to guys, and I'm going, how do y'all talk to each other like that? Like, to the point where now, bitch, well, I can say this on the internet. Bitch is like woman. So it's like, yo, that's my bitch. And girls be like, yes, I'm his bitch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I think it's vulgar. Like I said that as a young man, and my father said, son, don't you ever call a woman that in life. She may very well be the mother of your children. So you have to learn to respect women, even though, I mean, men got their problems, and women has to relearn to respect them, and men has to relearn. And that's a give and take kind of thing. But if you like, hey, listen, just take this money and go and leave me alone, I don't get it. And some brothers may not even have the dough. So
yeah,
it's just that, and a brother doesn't necessarily need it if he's a nice guy.
right.
But you have to be. And what's nice, not to the point, don't take my kindness for weakness, but understand that, compassion is compassion. Empathy is what it is, for others. I mean, you got to find it.
Right.
The cool person is the person for me that understands that.
Right.
That the cool person is, oh, he's okay. He's cool. The guy may not be for you, or the woman may not be for you. But it does. But you'll generally say, "Oh, he's cool. She's down, or whatever. She's a nice person. And she ain't like that, and But she's a nice person if you really want to get to know her. So there's all that stuff that happens, so to speak, in the corral. Until you kind of find your way out of it, and maybe find your way out with with someone that you can want to spend some time, take a walk in the park. But clearly for me, the quality of relation is dropping, but maybe that's the culture in general, because, it's never about money. It's about understanding and knowledge, social awareness. How do you handle a fork and a knife at a table? How do you handle a conversation? What's appropriate to wear here and what's inappropriate to wear there. This is all stuff when for many people, they learned it earlier in life, and some don't get it. And they just think I can do what I want when I want. Well, okay, maybe you can in certain environments, but in other ones, they don't want you at the dance.
True.
That's true.
I feel like this generation, I'm sorry, Kev. No, I feel like this generation, I feel like we just don't take the time to get to know somebody on a level. Like we just want to rush into a relationship. Like we don't sit there and be like, okay, let me get to know this person. Let me see if I actually really, really like you. And I had this conversation with somebody a few days ago. I'm like, you got to get to know somebody to see if you want to be with them. And everybody's not meant to be together. And just because we're not meant to be together, you might just be better off as a good friend to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you can't be mad at somebody if they choose to put you in the friend zone.
I agree 100%, and it is because it is understanding that I say in the book, we're talking with, I think it was Yvette, about, so do we want to, because she's an older woman now and married children. I said, well, do we want to do the Steve Harvey 90-day rule?
Right. Right.
Because if you're younger, I think you should do what he's saying, get to know somebody.
Right.
And because you have to value yourself. You have to, I'm not saying overvalue yourself, but one needs to value themselves more than behind just some animated meat.
Yeah. Wow. So do you think your whole motivation for the book, because it's a great story. And
there is a story in the reading. It's a little turn up in it. There's some turn up in it.
It's a lot of
go through it. Especially the first half. The second half, it turns into drama and murder, and because there's consequences in life,
right?
Death, babies. It gets deep.
Every action has a reaction.
Oh, it's real.
Mm-hmm. It's real.
It's real, and the ending may be very surprising. The relationship that he has growing with these two women, they're real. From being sensual to mental to compassion, being there for them in other scenarios other than just something sexual. Life in many cases is of the mind. Perhaps all of it is of the mind.
I want to understand your motivation for choosing to be as graphic as you was in some of the escapades or sexcapades, I should say. Did you think, okay, I got to put this out there so the reader can actually get it? Because what I've learned is it's different from writing a movie. When you in a book, you have to write the thoughts. In a movie, you just show the thoughts. So you pretty much made me read this thing. I was reading a few pages and I was like, okay, wait a minute. Did he actually say this? But it's a book. What was your motivation for even going that far?
Well, I think you have to be honest. Your integrity comes from taking an honest position. And the way I had to tell this story to get to the end, to get people to see, in particular, these two, Lynn and Yvette, and perhaps Diane in the book, and Harold Longston in the book, to get to that point in their totality, to find that thing that was missing for them. And for Yvette, and some readers may view it different, it's how you read the story. Yvette there was a thing that Yvette needed, and it was, love beyond 5 minutes of just every day going to work back and forth, and was nothing and then raising the kids. For Lynn, it wasn't that. It was finding a guy like Harold, because she was educated and lovely lady, could have any man she wanted, but she was looking for something much more beyond the sex in a man, and she found that in Harold. And then Diane, it was a whole different twist for her, but I think the read of 49 So Fine, you will find pretty exciting.
Yeah,
And,
it was.
but it's a good story. I've on the website pierregporter.com, there was one lady wrote a testimonial. She said, I read this book and I enjoyed it. I'm an older Christian woman, but and maybe my life was like the muse, Mrs. Angel Eyes, in the story. And, yeah, because Mrs. Angel Eyes is a deep character in the book. Maybe my life was much like her before I found something different, but I enjoyed it. And now, actually, and if there's a couple of ladies who find this a little prudish, just skip over that and read and continue reading, because there's a good story here. So it's one of her testimonials. And then she said, and she summed it up, her testimonial up, by saying, I've got several adult children. I'm buying the book to give to them because I want them to understand love and relationship and enjoying life.
Hey, Christians like to get their freak on too now.
Well, I'm not calling it that, but I'm just saying, if in fact you see yourself in a more, conservative perspective, I would say do not read the story. Yes, just skip over a couple of pages, because the story's still there without those 1 or 2 pages of this or that. And that's what the lady was saying in her testimony, and I'll agree with her.
Now,
so the read may not be for everybody, but I think there's a story in there for everybody to understand.
Now, real quick, just a quick question. I wanted to ask, not backtracking a little bit, but you read your story, and you went from real estate and finance, and different things, and then you got into children's books, and then you got into where you at now. So take us through the stages of where your mindset was at as you went through those stages of being in such different, aspects of life, as being
sure, as a guy graduating from college, and you're in that mindset, you want to be successful in something. You're going to try different ventures. So my background in economics and finance, leading into real estate and investment banking and that kind of stuff, it was fun. You earned some money, you made some money, you had losses, you've had some success as well as failures in your life. But I think one has to keep learning to reinvent themselves, and never get stuck, and keep moving it. What's the next adventure? What's the next thought? I say, in order to do that, sometimes you may have to pull yourself back and meditate or be alone. Like I've said to people many times, he said Jesus went into the wilderness, Buddha sat up under a tree, and Muhammad went in a cave. But that removal allowed them to find enlightenment and what was necessary to convey that enlightenment to the world. So taking that understanding, I go from there. You get a little older, you want to try and say something. I wrote a few children books. I was 5-time award-winning author in writing children's stories, chapter books, and that was fun, and I enjoyed writing them. I got another one coming out called The Land of Sugary, which I write under my name, Arthur C. Morgan. And I decided to start a publishing company called Lotus 1016 Publishing and Film, and which led to creating an adult genre. And so I said, well, if I've got to do this, let me just write it. Stories are, fortunately, I like storytelling, and I like sitting on the fence and watching the world go by and seeing interactions of individuals and couples and saying, well, if that would have happened, would something else happen? Would the outcome been different? And so it gives you an ability to kind of write and allow your thoughts, to carry you to a place where you can put it to pen and paper and hopefully come up with a story. But in your mind, you've got to have this story to tell. And so I think I was able to tell a story by the journey I've taken over the past years, from working to now working for myself and owning a business. So it's just allows you to keep moving forward if you view yourself as not being stuck or not wanting to be stuck.
Right. I asked that question as well, just for the listeners to know that it's always, in life, it's important to reinvent yourself.
Absolutely.
Or just don't never stay, don't stay the same and stay stagnant. I think that God blesses us with a whole bunch of talents, and gifts that we do have. So it's always, in just your levels of life that you go through, it's always very necessary to reinvent yourself. And that's why I seen through your history how you went from real estate and finance, such a big situation, until then you went to children's book, then you elevated from there to there. Was each level and each situation a stepping stone to the next?
Oh, absolutely. They all become building blocks. I mean, it's your life. It's your life at 20 is different than your life at 30 is different than your life at 50. So you take all that you've learned. Some of it you can use, some of it you use right away, other you put on the shelf, and later come back and says, "Oh, let me go get that. I dealt with that 10 years ago. Let me go back and relook at that. Maybe as a way to propel what I'm doing, and maybe as a way to make sure I don't make a mistake in what I'm doing right now."
I know you said that this book is based on fiction, but are any of the characters loosely based on maybe you or anybody you know?
That was a question I had too.
No, I say it's a work of fiction.
Okay.
But they do say in all fiction there's a little truth.
Oh.
So, a little.
The lady wants to know, Mr. Morton.
Well, what might be true is that I'm an individual that enjoys a nice romance, and an individual that enjoys taking a woman to a fine restaurant to have dinner and a great conversation, and many times just taking her home afterwards and going home and going home.
So, with that being said, I know it's real, because you were pretty descriptive on some of the things, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I could just see it as if it wasn't.
Have you done it?
Yeah. So, Dee, the question you asking is very much is you asked the right question, because some of that stuff it had to be personal. You know what I'm saying? Because those experiences.
Right.
I listen, guys. This is a work of fiction, but it's easy. Now it's easy to and really it's easy. I mean, a man can write this kind of stuff because men sit around talk this kind of stuff, and men sit around women, and women tell them about their relationships, their orgasms, their lack of orgasm, and men talk about this or that. So you get these stories. Of just living. You're going to hear your aunt, your sister, your brother, your girlfriend talk about this or that. You get all these stories. Some of it's laughter, and some of it's like pretty sad. But you can take all that stuff, and you can craft a story behind it. And it doesn't have to be your personal life. And in many cases, it isn't your personal life. It's what one might envision. They need to, and as far as an author go, to be able to tell a story to get to the end of this story and what happens at the end of the story. So it starts here. This is the thing that grabs you. The middle holds you, and the end reveals itself.
There's something you said in the book about, I guess when it came to many different women, you was describing the color, and you said all of it is pink. So
that's what they say. That's what they say.
Right? So,
you got to read the book.
Dee, as soon as I get back home,
that is what they say. It's all great at the end of the day.
But he says that, and I was.
But in a joking way, it's funny in the book, right?
Yeah. But I was saying that because it's like a lot of people don't really get it. It's not about really that. It's about what's attached to it. So, and I think I got the whole gist of everything. Yeah,
by that statement. That's right.
Yeah, by that statement. And I thought that was very interesting way to twist it, because we say that, Hey, it don't matter. It's all the same. D is D and P is P and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
the way you related that, I was like, wow, that was interesting. And he used that in a way where we could be interested enough in saying, okay, I get it. But then you had something else to it. I'm trying to say it without giving away the book. I want people to really go and get the book.
No, that's true. No, and I think if they read it, it's laughter, because the interaction with the male and the female, or Harold and Yvette or Lynn, and that type of conversation, they get it, because it's a mature conversation. It's not some giddish kind of thing. It's not giddy. It's just a mature statement.
Right.
And she gets it. He gets it. And don't. It is what it is. Don't overvalue yourself. Don't overvalue the body.
Right. And another thing that's important, Didi, what was really interesting, he talks about like the positions and what to do. And a lot of people, when we talked about church, because I grew up in church and I know sex was very taboo. So it's like,
I feel like it is though in the Black community.
In the Black, right.
If any other races, there's no, to me, it's no restrictions. I went to a all-white high school, and their viewpoint on sex is completely different than ours.
I agree. I went to similar kind of school, so
right.
I won't disagree with you. But I think listen. There's certain things in sex I just don't touch, don't need to touch, don't want to touch. Okay, I just not there. For me, the whole thing about that is just God gave us all we needed. All you gotta do is learn to love. It's love and loving. It's just learn to love a woman well, treat her well, respect her well, go out and have some fun and enjoy your afternoon at the beach or a walk in the park or sitting at a bar or on a bench. It's companionship, it's relationship. It's a consciousness. And once you kind of get there, it melds itself together. It's like, why do you like this guy? Well, then if you only knew what she knew. or vice versa.
Wow. Because you talk about like do this, or it sounds demanding and commanding. And I know a lot of women, I know Didi, for guys, a woman that tells you where to put it and how to do it and what to do and all that. It's like, wait a minute, she do this. But I think sometimes women should have a say so in.
Oh, absolutely.
Want to be and what
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's saying to do this or do that. They are just enjoying, a union of two becoming one, finding ecstasy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I really think it's about learning your partner and what your partner likes, and them learning you and what you like too, so you both can satisfy each other.
Sure. And then again, in many cases, sex, love is not always about satisfaction. Love's about happiness. It's not about pleasure. He writes in the book, happiness, that there's a difference between happiness and pleasure. Happiness is a cool spring, and pleasure only begets loneliness. So you got to find happiness. If you're seeking pleasure, that's what you're going to get. But at the end of the day, it may beget.
But
if you seek happiness, in its totality, I think you find the fullness of life that one yearns for.
Isn't that about, like, I think in chapter 10, I think he's trying to find out his happiness or something, and experiences were like, because I didn't understand satisfaction, but that don't necessarily mean happy.
That's correct.
Yeah, you got to go into that because you just said that. Because I'm thinking if you're satisfied, you're happy, but
not necessarily. Just because somebody's satisfying you doesn't mean you're
not. No. It's like, it's a way a man will walk away from a woman, or a woman will walk away from a man who seems to have everything.
Okay, and it's totality.
They're not happy.
Yeah. Okay. I was stuck on the actual act, y'all. I was like, ooh, I'm satisfied.
It's maturing. It's maturing.
Right.
It's like, hey, take a sister hand and walk down the street with her. I don't do that. Take the sister hand and walk down the street.
Now, speaking about love, is it possible that you can be in love with two people at the same time?
Woo!
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Because your character seemed like he was dealing with multiple women at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
actually, essentially two at the same time.
well, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, but and absolutely, and eventually though, because Harold, I won't give too much away in the book, where Harold has this thing called the 2-year rule. You got to read that, and so, but yes, one can, but eventually will one have to probably make a decision? Yes, or they'll make the decision for you.
Even though you're in love with two people, how is that possible though?
Right. Well, it's possible to do it, but do they need to know? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I don't know whether some know, some don't. But hey, listen, I think it's possible. Is there consequences for that? Absolutely. And can some women handle it? Oh, sure. You look at many religions and it's that. But I think it is possible. But on the other end, I think you ultimately have to make a decision what you want to do, because invariably there's feelings there, and these feelings modulates at different speeds and what have you. And so they create consequences, blowback, et cetera, which you'll see in this story.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is to the game for me is the inwardness of the individual. You must find yourself. In finding yourself, it allows you to be a lot more open and free with those who you are relating to. But it's a journey. It's a journey of self, because once you find maturity, you find out you don't need a lot of bubble gums and all the other kind of stuff. You just need to be centered and find peace in oneself. And it could be by yourself, or it could be with with the lady of your dream.
Gotcha. Going back, okay. Nick Cannon just recently did an interview where he was talking about his multiple baby mamas and multiple children, and he blamed it on like a Eurocentric, that we're trapped in this Eurocentric society, and that the woman, she's not my property. I don't own her. And back in the day, that's what they did to women, that they would sell them off to their husbands for property in exchange for property and stuff. How do you feel about like his views? Because he's saying that's the reason why he's having these different children by different women, because he doesn't own any of them.
It's an excuse.
Okay. Mariah hurt his feelings. I knew it.
So I mean, hey, listen, if that's what you want to believe, go ahead and believe it. But at the end of the day, are you grown? Are you ready to be responsible? Or are you just going to have, in his particular case, he may very well have the check and all the attention that he can give to these children to bring them to a level that they're not lost as young men and women. Mm-hmm. As many men may have, and there's a lot of lost children out here. Yes. And maybe because of perhaps my generation and before mine didn't pay enough attention, or maybe the one now are not paying enough attention. But if you believe that, then you must be prepared to accept the consequences of that outcome, and the outcomes that comes with that. Right. It's real simple.
Sometimes I think.
So, hey, listen, if this guy, it's like my father said a long time ago. He said, if you didn't like what I did and how I raised you, then you need to get over it, because I ain't changing. So when you go to raise your kids, then you did whatever you thought I didn't do right, then you change and do it, and you do the right thing. And whatever I did was right, then you improve on it, and then the family will be better in the long run.
Wow, I saw that too. Also, and I thought sometimes I think our culture now, I think we try to make an excuse for our mishaps and our mistakes.
Oh, sure.
So find something to say, because I mean, I saw what you're talking about when I watched Nick, and I know he was talking about that. I think he wrapped some type of solution around his mishaps.
Hey, listen, we can all tell stories,
Right.
but what's the truth?
Exactly. Wow. What is the truth? That's interesting. Woo. I'm Didi, like I said, it's so interesting because we all have been involved in situations like that in relationships.
Absolutely.
And back to the two people thing. I just wanted to get there real quick. What if you have one person that do all these things and the couple of things that this one don't, the other one does? Can we all live together? Can we all get along?
He said you got consequences with your actions.
Well, yeah, there's consequences. It's simply that. For
Damn.
I'm writing a story to basically say that kind of stuff ain't necessary.
Oh,
It really isn't.
So when you get to the end, because you'll see all that stuff at the middle and the end. Okay, this is cake and ice cream, and then here it's something else, and then here is what did you really have on your plate?
wow. So how do you think other cultures do it? Like, I know, is it just because they grow up in it and they just allow themselves to say, okay, this is what it is, so this is what we have to live in? Because a lot of times I think we as humans, we live in situations because we created the outline to live in.
We must learn to take responsibility for ourselves, our community, our people. Hey, listen, I mean, we got the history of the European and living in a Western society. We get that. But here's the big question for me. If you see the world at 5 or 10,000 feet altitude, and you see it one way, imagine what the guy seeing at the altitude of 30,000. If the rich and the elite are flying over the city to get from Manhattan to Palm Springs, he doesn't see shit.
Right.
Don't want to. But if he would take a drive from Manhattan on the streets through all of this, then maybe he would find his compassion, his humility, and for mankind.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you separate yourself, hey, if you live in a box, then that's what you get is what's in the box, and you may be very happy, but you're going to get jaded. No question about it, I believe. But if you learn to drive, what's so exciting to hear on the news that Bill Gates just made another $1 billion when people were hungry and starving? Basically, he says some people were paid unfairly.
Right.
Right. Wow. You just gave me not an aha moment, but a bitch boom moment.
Well, I don't use that word. I don't.
I'm just saying, that's it, because I didn't think about that. Wow. When you live in a box, that's what you get. So hey, wow, this is interesting. I can't wait for everyone to go out and get this book. You have something else to say, Didi? Go ahead.
He had mentioned earlier about the younger generation considering sex to be work. Do you feel that's how they feel? Like sex is more of a chore now and not something that's to be like desired and pleasurable?
Oh, I don't know. We would have to do the old scientist thing, go out and take the studies and get the numbers and so forth and figure it out. For me, I don't see sex as work. It's not a job. Saying hello in the morning work.
Right.
Well,
I think so.
But the actual sex worker, that they put a name on it now. You know how I said we create our outlines that we choose to live in.
Yeah, but you're dumbing down society all the time. The elite don't mind. The elite don't mind you being dumb.
Right.
They don't mind you being ignorant. They don't mind bad
that?
schools because you're not taking the time to confront them why they got all the dough when you don't.
Yeah.
Right. But
So they'll let you bask in and debase yourself. Like one of the characters in the book, he's one of the characters in the book, Tay Wells. Mm-hmm. He's a young brother in the book. You got to get to him and read about him. But he's been a product of what you're talking about, or he is a product of the book of what we're talking about right here. And you got to read the book to see what happens to him.
But see, and that's the thing. We took like OnlyFans, that app. I know y'all all heard of it. Mm-hmm. OnlyFans. Yeah. it started out to be an entertainment thing. It was supposed to be entertainers that have large followings, their followers follow them, but now it turned into a sex working app. So it's like people actually feel like, okay, I'm not gonna go get this type of job or that type of job. I'm gonna just get an app and I'm gonna invite
That's
people
over
over.
now.
And, huh?
That's over now. As of October, starting
Oh,
in
it's
October. Yeah, they're not doing that anymore.
because it just went so haywire, and people found to make what they call sex work a thing. And I'm like, wow.
It's in one sense, man, you just can't go with the fads all the time. If you keep, if this is why for me many brothers get lost, because when we got a shot at doing something right and making an economic move in society, the system throws something in and we go that way instead of like staying on our dean and making what we've been doing, keep doing it and keep doing it. And that creates the perfection. But propaganda is everywhere today. They call it public relations, right?
Yep.
But it's there controlling the thoughts. How many real thoughts do you have that's not being controlled by television or billboard signs or ads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How often do you remove yourself and just think?
Yeah. Wow. I
Good
mean,
stuff. This is all good stuff. I'm taking it in.
yeah, this is really good. I'm glad to have you on, Arthur Morton, because it's like we don't talk about this stuff. So these are things that we need to talk about, have dialogue about. But you have to do something like what you're doing so we can have the conversation.
Oh no, I'm more than happy to do it and do it again, because at the end of the day, for example, I started a foundation called Why Type 2 Diabetes. Why type the number 2 diabetes.org. Diabetes is a major problem out here, especially young Black folks and young and particularly about children, which is the focus of the foundation of Black children and children of color, and then children in general. And you guys can go to the website and make a donation, because basically it's you got to help. As my father says, son, you got to learn to help.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, and at the end of your life, you got to look around and says, did I used to tell me the story. He says, you got to learn to help, because if you don't, the individual your children bring home because you didn't help their parents earlier in life, and they didn't bring the right ones home, then you got to say to yourself, that I help enough.
Right.
Yeah.
So help. Learn. You got to learn to help, because in helping that guy, because you don't know who your kid. He says you don't know who your kids are going to marry, so you got to learn to help. So the ones they bring in the door that you don't like, then you got to ask the question, did I help enough?
Right.
Because if you help more in the earlier stage of the game, that creates a bigger soup bowl for those kids when everybody gets tossed into it, to find more of a like kind and to be more productive through their young and maturing ages. But you got to learn to help. But if you say, oh man, I'm just getting my dough, forget everybody else and get everybody drugged out and so forth, then you don't think your kid will bring home a drug dealer?
Wow.
Definitely. Now, you sure right about that. One question I wanted to ask too before we didn't want to forget. I know a few aspiring writers and publishers out there trying to get into this business. Now, for you, what advice would you give them as far as trying to get into this game? Because I heard it's kind of to become like a top seller and all that. It's and put all this stuff together. I think it's kind of difficult.
I agree, and I'm on that journey right now. But I think you have to hone your craft as best you can. Writing. I'm more of a storyteller than a writer, and but you have to learn to hone your craft and understand that the approach to most things is from a team approach, and to make sure you got the best talent on your team to move forward, and they have the same consciousness that you have, and wanting to go from A to Z. Understanding that we have to generally learn. We generally must crawl. We must crawl, walk before we run. It's just those stages. you know, and if we do that and we find the right consciousness along the way, and you open yourself up, it's going to happen. But you have to hone your craft. You got to have a product. This is capitalism. It's the business. First of all, you got to have a product. You got to have a marketable product, so to speak, that people want to read. It depends. If you just want to write a medical book that only medical doctors are going to read, then you're not seeking any money out of it. But if you're writing some other stuff that may have a greater market acceptance, then you may very well get that. But I always say, learn to do something well, because especially in this system, we capitalism we grow up in, it, generally doing something well. The byproduct is money. I mean, if you're one of the best ball players, you're gonna make some money. But if you learn to do something, if you're one of the best golfers, if you're one of the best whatever, if you learn to hone your craft and you become that good at it, then generally the byproduct, people will find it because it has value. Mm-hmm. And what I guess at the end of the day, I would say, learn to create value.
Yeah. Something you just said earlier before we get out of here, and this is one of the questions I had written down, because I'm in the entertainment. We're all in the entertainment business. We've been in it for years. We deal with a lot of artists, music artists out there as well. Now, I think it's parallels within, authors and writers as R&B singers or writers in the music industry. Now, going to what you said earlier, I think it's important to tell the difference. What is the difference between a storyteller and a writer?
Well, for me, a writer has probably, has honed his skills to a much greater degree. May very well have started out as an English major in college or somewhere along the line, and he's there already as a writer. I would say I'm moving in that direction, but their literary skills tend to be much better and to a greater degree than a storyteller. And so therefore, you get editors in life to help you along the way, and you get better at it. And as you write more and you write more, you're going to get better at it. As an actor, the more films you're involved in, you're going to be better as an actor.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, we have come to that time, y'all. Thank you, Mr. Morton. It's incredible. I encourage everybody to go out there and get this book, 49 So Fine.
Pierre G. Porter.
Yeah, Pierre
G. Porter is my pseudonym for the book, obviously, because I write children's stories.
Right, and I got to say that's good. But we here at Culture Talk, we love to talk about things like this, Culture Talk Live. We talk about things that you guys just think you want to think about. So we actually talk about it. So thank you, Dee Dee. Oh, God. We're going to have another good one after this. But I thank you.
Invite me back after you guys read the book, and we'll...
After Dee Dee read the book? Oh, it's a whole nother part, too. Trust. Trust me. So tell everybody where they can get
I'm sure you'll find some characters in there that you will...
that she relates to.
I will probably relate to a lot of those characters.
As well as you, Kevin. I think you can relate to Harold and and the other guys in the story, the other men in the story that you see towards the end.
Yeah, it was a lot of it was very relatable. But tell everyone where they can get the book.
The book is on Amazon, $14.95, $7.99 as an ebook in the Kindle store. The website is pierregporter.com. Facebook is author, AUTHOR, Pierre G. Porter. And Twitter is Pierre G. Porter.
Thank you. There you have it. I'm Kevin Bryant, Dee Dee Parker, and Reg ATL. We are out. This is Culture Talk Live, and thank you guys for joining us.
Bye.